It's the lady portion of the evening, the lady comic portion. A few women chuckled. That's the exact reaction I usually get. It is. It's very strange being a female comic. I always like to address what the audience is thinking. Like, don't worry, I wish I had a penis too, right? I think penises are real snazzy. Do you like your wiener, sir? Of course you do. They make more money. That's neat. Yeah. What are women making? We're making like, what, 78, 75 cents on the dollar? You guys are just scooping in those extra quarters with your weens, right? Buying stuff we can't afford, like land. Yeah, do you guys know women own less than 20% of the land in the whole world? Did you guys know that? And I'm not judging. I don't own land. You know why? Because I bought these shoes. That's when I don't own land. Wiener Jokes bought me these shoes. No, stand-up comedy, it's a very odd profession, especially for a woman. You hear the strangest things. Like, occasionally, like, an MC will bring me on stage, and he'll be like, we got something different coming to the stage. We got a lady. And you're like, why is he bringing me up as if I'm a bear on a bicycle? This is very odd. My favorite question one guy asked me, he's like, why would you do stand-up? You're a pretty girl. And I was like, wait, I guess this guy just assumed if you're like a reasonably attractive woman in America, people just hand you puppies and bags of money. So I was like, that's not happening, and I need to pay my cable bill, so. No, it is. It is very confusing. Like, because you hear the craziest things. Like, this guy, after he said that, he was like, well, you just don't look like a comedian. And I asked him, I was like, well, what does a comedian look like? And he was like, well, I don't think you look like a comedian. You look more like a magazine editor. And I was like, oh, I guess I hope it's more New Yorker than Field and Stream. That's what I was hoping. So then I guess everything in life, everything in life is how you choose to see it. It's like this guy, he looked at me and he didn't see a stand-up comedian. He didn't see somebody that looks funny. And I want to know, what does funny look like? Is funny black? Is it white? Is it fat? Is it skinny? Is funny male? Is it female? Is it me? Does this look funny? I have my clicker in my pocket. Does this look more like a comedian? That's me. I photoshopped myself in a Paula Poundstone pantsuit. I'm super happy with that. My friend did it. I'm very happy. No, does that look more like a comedian? We'll just take that off because that's very distracting, even though I do enjoy the shoulder pads. Why would somebody who looks like a magazine editor choose to do stand-up comedy? One, I have no other life skills. That's true. I can pick out throw pillows, but I have yet to figure out how to monetize my pillow picking. And two, I just love making people laugh. When people laugh at you, they like you, and I've always had a desperate need to be liked. You know, it is. I come from a whole family of tragedy. That's pretty much the reason. I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. I come from kind of a sad childhood. I'm not saying I'm a sad clown, that's why I'm a comedian, but this was my first headshot right there. It's also a great Photoshop job, everybody. No, why? Why would I choose to do something? Why would I choose a field where people still accuse women of not being funny? You go to a comedy club, I'm going to take that off because it's distracting. You go to a comedy club and maybe 1 in every 12 weeks is a woman. Why would I choose to do that? Well, this is basically my backstory. I grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Has anybody heard of it? Yeah, okay. I like to say your town's a dump when Billy Joel's singing about it. And I'm sure I'm going to get slack from Allentown for that, but no. And I grew up with 2 parents that were teenage parents. My parents were 17 when they met, and they met at a summer Pocono resort. Their romance was very dirty dancing, sans the casual racism and provocative dancing and backroom abortions. And they got married. They got married 3 months later because my mom thought she was pregnant. And when I say thought, my mom apparently had just gained a little weight and they couldn't afford to go to a doctor. So they just assumed she was pregnant and decided to get married. Turns out she was just drinking a lot of milkshakes that summer because she worked on a dairy farm. Yeah, my mom got married because she got fat. That's why. No, that's true. So my parents knew that their parents would never let them get married if they weren't pregnant, so they tried to get pregnant real fast. This was my first birthday right there. As you can see, that's my trailer that I grew up in. That's me as a little kid. My birthday cake is on cinder blocks. That's nice. And my father had a full ride to Villanova on an academic scholarship, and now he's living in this trailer with my mom. So my grandparents don't look the happiest they've ever been in their whole life. We lived there for about, 3 semesters until an electrical fire burned that trailer to the ground, and then we moved back in with my aunt, who was a paranoid schizophrenic, and my 2 grandparents. My aunt was diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was, maybe 6 years old. She came home one day and she was just crazy. That's what they called her, Crazy Carol. Carol, she was great. As a kid, I thought Carol was fun. Crazy had imaginary friends, and I had imaginary friends. It was really a good time. No, she would. Aunt Carol would have these moments of like lucidity and really great insight, and then she'd follow it up something totally kooky. She'd be like, April, don't look outward for your happiness. Your puzzle needs to be completed within you. Don't look for pieces to your puzzle. Olivia Newton-John talks to me through the Grease soundtrack, and you're like, oh, okay. That first part made a lot of sense. Made a lot of sense. No, I loved my aunt. She taught me how to tell time. She taught me how to read. And then my aunt committed suicide when I was 10 years old. She shot herself with my uncle's gun, and my dad was the one to find her. After that, this sounds crazy. It's going to get sadder, but then we'll get back to funny, so don't worry, all right? No, my aunt committed suicide, and then my grandfather died of AIDS. It was about 10 days later. My grandfather contracted HIV in the early 80s through a blood transfusion. Yeah. They weren't testing blood at the time, and then he unknowingly passed it to my grandmother. So both my grandparents died of AIDS. My aunt shot herself, then both my grandparents died of AIDS, and people ask why I'm funny now. No, it was. My grandfather, he was a lovely man. He had a bald head. He would take me for donuts and with the little bakery boxes with the string, and I loved him. So after they passed away, my dad had kind of lost his way. He lost both his parents. His sister had shot herself. My mom was kind of sad. My mom grew up in a very tragic household. She was one of 7 children, and not one of her parents told her she was loved, not once. So there was a lot of sadness in my household growing up, right? So after that, what do you do as a young girl who grows up in chaos and dysfunction and has abandonment issues? You turn to promiscuity. That's what I did. I like to say I've been getting my self-esteem back 1 wiener at a time since I was 15. Yeah, I did. I had sex really early. And by early, I mean after it happened, I went home and watched Fraggle Rock, everybody. So some of the younger people in the room aren't going to get that joke. And that's okay. So why? Why would I choose comedy? I think there's really no other choice, right? You can extract humor out of life, or you can take what's sad. And for years, I chose sad. It's like for years, I was sad and I was depressed. I played a victim. I blamed my childhood for my problems. And then I found comedy. Comedy was the thing that saved me, right? It's like if you can make somebody laugh, you can alleviate their pain for a very short period of time. In my household as a kid, that's all I had. I could lift that. I could lift the sadness. And I could take away my parents' pain. It's like, and I look at the funny things now. I look at my grandmother. Let's see. That was my grandmother she was one of the ones that died of AIDS. My grandmother had a stroke when I was in 2nd grade, and she lost her speech, and she only retained the use of the words good boy, son of a bitch, goddamn it, and juice box. That was it. That was the extent of my grandmother's vocabulary. And she used to make me wear a plastic bag on my head when it rained. Why? God forbid we got an umbrella. Look, I look like a young recruit for the KKK. That is not normal. Should not take me outside like that. Take that off. I call her good a boy, good grandma. So, no, it's funny because she did. She would talk and just good a boy, good, and I just knew what she was talking about through various word combinations, like 2 good a boys and a goddamn it meant she needed Metamucil. So we had a certain amount of communication going. So now what can I do? I can either be sad. I can be sad about the fact that my grandparents died of AIDS and my aunt shot herself, or I can find humor in life. That's what I can do. It's like I can laugh at the fact that I call them my AIDSy grandparents. I think that's hilarious. I call my mom's side of the family the REO booze wagons because they're all alcoholics. Every last one of them. I have an uncle who was arrested for DUI by a bicycle cop. That's fun. Yeah. My mom drinks and she paints pictures of Michael Bolton. Nobody ever believes me. I'm going to show you. I'll let that sit with you guys for a minute, if you guys want to just soak that in. So honestly, what choice did I have to become a comic? It's like you can find the tragedy or you can find the humor. It's like I had no choice to be a comic because this was my childhood. That's me pouring booze in an above-ground pool when I was 10 years old while my dad lights a cigarette and my mom's swimming away from me. I think that says everything. I just say find the humor. It's like stand-up comedy, it's given me the best life lessons. It's taught me that I can choose happiness. I don't have to choose sadness. It's like I get to decide who I am. I create the narrative of my life. I shape it. It's I get to decide. You get to decide who you are, what you want to be, what you stand for. So create a beautiful story. That's what I believe. And I believe that you get to decide. When you get to decide who you see. Today I see somebody who I'm super proud of. I see somebody standing on stage doing a TED Talk. I get paid to tell wiener jokes for a living. That's really exciting. And I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm proud to be here. I don't know why I'm about to tear up, but I'm very excited about it. You know what I see? I see somebody today who's funny. And people say that women aren't funny, but I say we are. We are just as damaged as men. Yes. Stand-up comedy saved me. Stand-up comedy was my lifeboat. I see funny. That's what I see. Thank you guys so much for your time.